across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 03444 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, July the 6th. Here's what's coming up. As a new report calls for a total ethical reset of the way British coppers operate and an end to the identity politics madness of woke policing, a disturbing case of Rozzers allegedly displaying shocking anti-white racism is unfolding in Birmingham. Reform MP Robert Jenrick has joined the growing throng asking why, after a black guy clearly attacked a white guy at 1:30 a.m. in the morning during a small hours altercation, only the white guy was arrested. And very aggressively at that, bashed against the wall, boom, you're under arrest, get in the car, all that. Meanwhile, his attacker was allowed to walk off into the night with a gang of his friends, who were all people of colour, after insisting in a series of tweets that the Birmingham force was A-OK with this arrest and asking people not to share the video. Suddenly the cops announced they're looking for the black guys. They launched an investigation into them and then appeal for witnesses. So they kind of changed their minds. The white guy has subsequently been charged with assaulting a police officer, and as such, the film footage of the incident is clearly potential evidence in his trial. But why were the other people involved in this small hours encounter not even spoken to and just allowed to shuffle away? Was it because they were black and not white? 03444 499 1000. One only asks these questions in the slipstream of the Vikram Digwa affair. The arrest of Henry Novak, who was arrested, handcuffed, shoved on the ground when he was dying from stab wounds, that the police refused to accept even existed for about 8 minutes, which may have been a factor in his death. Meanwhile, they were busy listening to Vikram Digwa as he said that Henry Novak subjected him to racial abuse. This is seen, allegedly, as a clear case of anti-white racism on the part of the police. Have we got another major case of anti-white racism on the part of the police in Birmingham? It's very serious. Robert Jenrick is now involved. More and more people are saying, what the hell went on here? We'll visit that story in just a second. What do you think? 03444 499 1000. In other news, Nigel Farage reacts furiously to front-page reports that he took money from a convicted fraudster and failed to declare it to Parliament. It's not exactly breaking news that Farage has a close relationship with George Cottrell, and that crypto dealer Posh George, as he is nicknamed, is a major supporter of reform. So, after revelations about the 5 houses he bought for cash and the raging row over the £5 million free gift he received from Thai-based billionaire Christopher Harborn, is Farage, as he furiously claims, the victim of an establishment hit job. The Reform UK leader insists that neither he nor his party have done anything everything wrong. So why is he all over the front pages of the papers? 03444991000. Also on today's action-packed show, the storm over freed rape gang monster Shabir Ahmad continues apace as his terrified victims are provided with special security, and the Tories offer Labour a legal plan to get this fiend deported out of the country back to his native Pakistan. Why doesn't the Labour government seem overly bothered about this? And why was this animal released from jail only 20 months after it was decided he was far too dangerous to unleash onto the streets? What changed in little over a year and a half, if anything? 03444991000. Plus the extraordinary fact that 70 Foreign Office staff were arrested or investigated for sex crimes last year. What the hell's going on there? And finally, Kinsey Schofield on the Harry go-round that's driving everyone crazy. The petulant prince graciously announced this morning that he had decided at last to accept the King's invitation to stay at Buckingham Palace. Too late, said palace courtiers. Can't put you up anymore. So where is old Ginger Nuts going to stay? Will Meghan and the kids be joining him in a couple of days' time? Or will Charles not get to see his grandchildren for the first time in 4 long years? Who knows? No one knows. What a mess. 03444991000. What on earth does Harry think he is up to? All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday afternoon together. And without further ado, let's go straight over to my first guest. She is Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Hello. Well, that was a long list of things we've got to discuss, wasn't it?
It certainly was. Now, did you stay up to watch the football?
I did not. I wish I had. I actually was up till 2 working on another project, and it was an absolute essay crisis situation, you know, like you had at university. I was late with the deadline, and I just had to sit up and keep going. So I missed the drama, but it sounds as if it was really exciting.
It was exciting. I would just say to Ian Collins that, like a lot of people, I sort of sat up waiting for the BBC's coverage to start at midnight for the 1 o'clock kickoff. They literally started the show, and the host, the first thing she said was, "Oh, breaking news, the game now is delayed until 2 a.m. I thought, oh, my God. So at that point, I thought, right, let's see if I can get an hour's sleep. And amazingly, I did. Set the alarm, got up, and then watched the match. So possibly not firing on all cylinders, but then again, who is today? But it was worth it. And later on, I won't burden you with it, but there's a growing storm going on about what the hell's going on with President Trump, who phoned the FIFA president to get an American striker off the hook because he was sent off in the last match and therefore should be suspended for their quarter-final game against Belgium, but now isn't, thanks to President Trump's phone call. That can't be right.
How weird is that?
That is very, very strange.
That is nuts. I mean, only in America could that be a thing. Can you imagine, you know, Keir Starmer ringing up the authorities and sort of saying, yeah, I think this guy should be on the pitch. I mean, what? Well,
listen, it's always been one of my fantasy dreams to discuss football with you on the air. So
my special subject.
Yeah, I know. I've always
obvious.
wanted to do this. So we'll play this for you now, just to ram home this story. This is President Trump confirming what we've just discussed.
You know, it's one thing to penalize somebody for the game, but how do you penalize them for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. So. Yes, I asked for a review by FIFA. I spoke to a man who's highly respected, and by the way, whose level of respect has gone up tenfold. And he was good before this started, but
I don't think his level of respect has gone up tenfold. It's gone down tenfold. Even American supporters, we're here in the USA team, aren't at all keen on this. They don't want special privileges. They're a damn fine side. They don't need it. They really are good, I'll tell you. But I think they will beat Belgium with or without this striker. But let's park the football issue here. We'll come back to this, of course, folks. I need to ask you, Isabel, what you think about what's going on with Nigel Farage now. Now, obviously, the raging row continues about him accepting a £5 million free gift from crypto billionaire Christopher Harborne, a British billionaire who lives in Thailand. Nigel Farage said, well, this came before I was an MP. I didn't have to declare it's a personal business. I'm going to spend it potentially on my own security because they've taken my security away from me, the government, or Parliament has. OK, fair enough. Then stories emerged that he, this was about this time last week, that he bought 5 homes immediately after Brexit, cash, houses that are now all part of his, if you like, property empire. Again, he says, I've done nothing wrong, nothing against parliamentary rules there. Now, yesterday's Sunday Times in particular, and today's papers as well, are full of his relationship with this guy, George Cottrell, nicknamed Posh George. Now, he is a convicted fraudster who has done his time, paid his debt to society. So I don't think there's any problem with Posh George donating money to Reform UK if he wants to, or them accepting it. What is being alleged is that Posh George donated money to Reform and Nigel Farage in the year leading up to Farage's election to Parliament at the last general election, and that it being during the 12 months that led up to his election, that should have been declared. So there are 2 charges here. 1, that he didn't declare this money, and 2, that George Cottrell is a convicted fraudster, and that so maybe he shouldn't be accepting money from a person like this. But overall, I mean, everybody has known about his close relationship with Posh George for a long time. So I don't see what's new about this. This did look to me like dragging up an old story and rerunning it. So the question to you is Nigel Farage the victim of a clear establishment hit job? Are the media now sort of ganging up on him to try to undermine him and perhaps destroy him?
Well, I think there's a sense in newsrooms, and certainly in left-wing newsrooms, that Nigel Farage is somehow damaged by the £5 million affair, and that if they just really throw everything they've got at him now, maybe they can kind of push him over the edge. Maybe they can rile him enough that he will sort of throw in the towel, that he will just pack it in and go off and, you know, do something else. I think they're going to be really very disappointed. You know, they've played their hand a bit early, I would say. There's still another 2 to 3 years to go, as we expect, before the next election. And, you know, Reform fully expected certain establishment figures, institutions, left-wing media, to do their worst, you know, to do everything they could to derail a potential Farage premiership. And it's just come a bit earlier, I think, than the leadership might have expected. And, you know, Gabriel Pogrund is a very respected journalist. He works for the Sunday Times. He's very, very good at what he does. And I enjoyed, if that's the right word, reading the results of what looks like many weeks, if not months, of digging away and picking at things and trying to find journalistic gold in a great big pile of coal. But actually, it didn't really amount to that much. You know, there's no secret, as you said, that so-called Posh George has been around Nigel for years. You know, I first really came across him in 2016 on a trip with Nigel to America. And, you know, he has been in Nigel's orbit ever since, really, one way or another. And the thing about George is that he doesn't need any changes of policy or to influence some future Reform manifesto. He's not interested in any of that. You know, he was supporting Reform at a time when Reform was just not really getting anything like the traction it does now. He's somebody who's been in it for the ideological reasons that he wants to save the country. So any suggestion that somehow, whatever hospitality George, who's a very generous guy, may have given Nigel, oh, you know, do you need to use my flat for the night because you're working late? Is that somehow corrupt? Is that somehow affecting Nigel's focus on policy? I mean, that is absolute pie in the sky. It's complete and utter nonsense. I understand it's creating a lot of unhelpful noise. You know, Nigel is trying to save the country, and all that's being talked about is his financial affairs. And I am sure now he is on his way back or back already from Washington, where he's been having, you know, the annual US celebrations. I'm sure he's going to want to face down his critics. You know, this is getting ridiculous now, and he's going to confront it head on, I'm sure. Nothing much more to say on that.
No, exactly. I want to hear what you think about this, folks. Is Nigel Farage the victim of an establishment hit job? Are the media deliberately now trying to undermine him for obvious reasons? They don't like this insurgent, this man who's trying to undermine the system, the two-party system with a new party. Is this an establishment plot to undermine Nigel Farage and to keep him out of power, basically? Let me know what you think. 03444 99 1000. Or does he deserve this? Does he deserve this? Should he have been a little bit more careful about his finances? Let me know what you think. 03444 99 1000. Just a couple of points about our current Prime Minister before you go, Isabel. First of all, our deluded little current leader, Keir Starmer, is moaning that Labour did not give his plan time enough to work.
Right.
That, you know, that they're making a mistake getting rid of him because his super master plan was about to come to fruition. There was no plan, and there still was no plan. There still is no plan now that he's disappearing into the sunset. That was his problem. You know, there's this amazing story. Sue Gray, his first chief of staff, bad appointment, we all know about that anyway. But I did sympathise when I read the other day that, so he gives her this job, this important job, you're the Downing Street Chief of Staff. So this is before he's even sort of, you know, got going. And she sits down with him on just about day one and says, OK, so what's your plan? What's your first 100-day plan? And he goes, what? He didn't have one. He had no plan whatsoever. And so when he says they didn't give my plan a chance, I think all Labour MPs will be going, what bloody plan? The man is deluded, isn't he?
Well, I'm just glad that on the basis of the things that he has done while he's been in office, I'm just glad that he hasn't been given any more time for any kind of plan that was in his head to get any further. I mean, Chagos Islands, you know, not funding defence, you know, carrying on, allowing the welfare state to become ever more bloated. We can do a huge list, can't we, of all the things that must have been in Keir Starmer's secret plan that existed only in his mind. And I think we can all be very thankful that any plan that he may have had, written or otherwise, has now been torn up. Unfortunately, we just have to be concerned that the next guy may have an even worse plan than Keir Starmer's.
And very quickly, the very final point, Starmer is off for his last kind of official engagement, if you like, to Turkey this week, to the NATO summit, where all of his attempts to gaslight the British public by saying, oh, what a fantastic job I've done with defence. That was part of his speech, wasn't it? His resignation speech. I've restored confidence in British defence. We're going, how dare you say that to us? That's just a lie. That's more than gaslight. Anyway, he's off to NATO. He won't be able to gaslight Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to give him a right kicking because this defence investment plan is for some, you know, for something like 2.7, 2.8% of GDP by 2030. NATO requires 5%. And we're nowhere near it getting to even 2.8%. He won't be able to gaslight Trump. Trump's going to give him a right going over, isn't he?
So, Kev, you slightly caught me unawares on NATO requiring 5%. When did that change come in?
I think it's always been the case.
No, it hasn't. It absolutely hasn't. So it was 2%. And then Trump has certainly pushed hard for it to be significantly more. I'm not aware that it's 5%, but I may well be out of date on that. Either way, Keir Starmer may be very, very glad after any more encounters with Donald Trump or his agenda that Keir Starmer is heading off into the political sunset, packing his bags and taking any misconceived plans to continue underfunding defence with him wherever he goes.
Yeah, there is a Hague NATO summit pledge for each country, an agreement on 5% defence spending by 2035.
Okay, that's a long. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So it's a long projection. They're not expected to spend it now.
Well, no, Starmer acts like it doesn't exist because, of course, he has no intention of ever getting there, and his plans, even his plans to increase spending, are nowhere near what Trump requires.
Yeah.
So you're talking 3.5. We're trying to get to 2.8 by 2030.
Yeah.
He is in for an embarrassing time in Turkey. I'm sorry, Isabel, I said that wrong. We have to say Turkey.
Oh, what's that all about?
Oh, there's
That's
a new
isn't
word.
it?
Turkey.
Why?
I'm
Why
not
does this
doing it.
happen?
I'm not doing it. I'm sick of
not
this.
doing it.
I'm going
It's
back to
Turkey.
Kiev as well. I'm going back to
Yeah.
Kiev. I'm sick of being told how to pronounce these foreign towns and cities and countries. I'm going to pronounce it my way. Like I
Turkey.
don't say Paris. Like I don't say Moskva. I'm going to say Kiev and I'm going to say Turkey, not Turkey. All right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Turkey, yee.
Yes, just shut up and leave us alone. We'll say it how we want to. Isabel, thank you so much for coming on. Always a pleasure. Isabel Oakeshott there, our international editor. When we come back, Mike Neville, former Met Police detective, will join us to discuss this Birmingham police row, this growing Birmingham police row over what looks like a case of anti-white racism on the part of the Birmingham cops. We'll tell you all about that when we come back. Stay where you are.
Let's get to the calls now. And Kevin is in Basingstoke. Morning, Kevin. Kevin, what do you think of this cycling conversation?
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to...
Disagree with me.
Yeah. I mean, there's far more accidents caused by cars than bikes.
Yeah, we're not talking about cars, Kevin. We're talking about bikes.
I'm never talking about bikes, but if we encourage more bikes, then there'll be less accidents, more people...
Yeah, more people on bikes who are not being controlled by anything.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Met Police Detective, former Met Police Detective Mike Neville will be with us now for the next 20 minutes or so to discuss two stories which some people might think are somehow linked. But first of all, we're going to talk about this disturbing incident. Welcome, Mike Neville. We're going to talk about this disturbing incident that happened on June the 21st. Couple of weekends ago in Birmingham. It was 1:30 in the morning. There was some kind of altercation going on the streets. You know, people have had a few drinks clearly, and the small hours. You see, what happens is suddenly you see a female officer very aggressively arresting a white guy. So there's a white guy You see him get attacked by a black guy, wrestled to the floor. Then the cops turn up, bash the white guy against some shutters, and very aggressively arrest him and take him off to the car. Now, he has subsequently been charged with assaulting a police officer. And as such, we are not going to discuss that at all. And that is why we cannot play the video, although that video has been widely shared on social media and watched by millions of people. Because people are concluding, or they are deciding, that this looks like a case of anti-white racism on the part of the police. Because there's this fracas, white guy getting beaten up on the pavement or wrestled to the floor by a black guy. Cops come along, get the white guy, slamming it, really aggressively arrest him. Meanwhile, the black guy stands up, joins his other black mates, and they just walk off. You know, no questions asked. Now, this was all on Friday, really doing the rounds. The police, the Birmingham police, it's very important, all of this. The Birmingham police then put a tweet out saying, "We're aware of this video doing the rounds. Please don't share it because this guy has been charged with assaulting a police officer, and as such, that video is part of evidence in a trial." That's quite right. We mustn't play that video. They then release a tweet saying, "We're perfectly happy with this arrest. No problems at all." In effect, words to that effect. They then release another tweet saying, "Oh, wait a minute. Because this video has been shared, we've had a look at this video. The black guys are now under investigation and we're looking for them, searching for them. Are there any witnesses out there who can help us catch them?" You know, specifically, I think the black guy who wrestled the white guy to the floor. So suddenly they're saying, well, wait a minute, we're not okay with this situation, when they previously had said they were. And previously told us, don't share that video because it's part of a legal case, a police case, and you mustn't, undermine the court case against this guy. Quite right, that. But something is going on. Now, Robert Jenrick has got involved, the Reform MP, and he's saying that the police are now finally investigating the men they allowed to flee. These were men of colour. The only guy they arrested was the white guy. As Robert Jenrick said, they are finally investigating the men they allowed to flee. This would not have happened if it was not for the footage being shared on this platform. So people are looking at this and saying this is a clear case of anti-white racism on the part of the police. Now, the police haven't addressed that yet, but they do seem to be sending mixed messages about exactly what happened here and their attitude to it. Oh, don't share this. This is a police case. Don't share this around. You'll prejudice a case. He's been charged, so you can't do this. Oh, wait a minute. We're having a look at this again. Oh, wait a minute. We want to get the black guys now. This isn't good. This isn't a good look, is it, Mike?
Not at all. And there should be, of course, circulating that video because we want to know who those black guys are, and if you recall when we spoke about these things on Friday, we had a case where the British Transport Police didn't circulate an image of a rapist for some 18 months, and it took only 2 days to identify the suspects. And so in this case, they need to circulate the images of the men because we need to know who they are. But I think what's happening here, Kevin, is once again, the light has been shone on two-tier policing and an incident less tragic than the death of Henry Novak, but no less worse in the sense that the police seem to side with one lot because they're one colour and go against another because they're white. And this isn't good enough. It sends a really wrong message. This is the same West Midlands Police, of course, who banned the Maccabi Tel Aviv football, the Israeli supporters on some spurious grounds because they were siding with local so-called Muslim community leaders. So West Midlands Police have got form for this. And what I always counsel that it's all right to punish if we're going to punish anybody, the junior officers involved. But as has been highlighted in the David Lord Blunkett's report, it's the leadership of the police that has brought this about. And society in general has brainwashed these young people that white people are bad, black people are good, throughout their schooling and then through university and then through the police training. So it's hardly... it's hardly surprising that this has happened.
Yes, I mean, if you look at this video, you're right. I mean, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, what the police should be doing, they're now saying any witnesses to this, but they're not putting the video out. But they should, shouldn't they? I mean, they might have to blank out certainly the white guy's face. We're not actually talking about that case at all. The police think they have a case against that guy. The CPS, the Crown Prosecution, have decided that he does warrant being charged with assaulting a
or
person.
Is this six or one half a dozen of the other?
Well, I mean, we'll have to let that case run its course. But that's not what we're talking about here. Yeah. That side of the incident, we must leave to the legal process. But if you look at that video, it is quite clear. It's weird. The cops come charging in and just pick on the white guy while the black guys just dust themselves down and just shuffle off.
If there is more to this than meets the eye, if something terrible had happened before that, then let's see that. Because all the time now we're saying to the police, look, there's a lot of mistrust here. The trust and confidence in the police is at rock bottom. You've got all this evidence on video. You can release it to show us what actually went on, because it may be that one side or the other was completely out of order and deserves all they get. But we don't know that. And like I say, lots of these things are on CCTV, they're on body-worn video, and they can do that. That's one side of it. That's a trust and confidence issue. The investigative side is, here's three men who seemingly attacked another man, and we have their faces on video. Who are they? That's just simple crime investigation.
Exactly right. And then, of course, it begs the question: why did the cops? They don't even look at the black guys. They don't even look at them. They just come charging in, grab a white guy, bang him against the sort of shop shutter thing, and give him a right to talking to, if I can put it that way. And it's a very aggressive arrest, and yet not so much as even a glance at the black guys. You can understand why Robert Jenrick and many others are asking serious questions about what went on here. And let me ask you this before we go to break, Mike, final question. Given, you know why we're discussing this. Obviously, it's in the slipstream of the Vikram Digwar case, where coppers immediately believed the Sikh guy saying, I've been subjected to racist abuse. while effectively allowing the white guy to die from his own stab wounds on the pavement, arresting him and putting him in handcuffs along the way. Never once did they put Vikram Digwar in handcuffs, even when they realised that perhaps there had been a fatal stabbing here. So, you know, that looks like a clear case of anti-white racism on the part of the Southampton police, the Hampshire police. And I think questions going forward are going to have to be asked about Birmingham police to do with this incident, because it looks, to the untrained eye, like mine, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but it looks to people who've seen that, millions of people who've seen it on social media, that this was allegedly a clear case of anti-white racism on the part of the police. Let the black guys go, arrest the white guy. Let me know what you think, folks. 03444 991 1000. I guess I should ask you, Mike, do we have a problem with this? Do we have a problem with senior officers, if you like, brainwashing younger officers into thinking like this? Go for the white people, not the black people.
Well, I think so, and it's not, and it's also the Jewish people as well. So we saw West Midlands clearly has a problem, just more than possibly other police forces. And I know they're going to appoint a new chief constable. If you remember, the last chief constable was got rid of, had to resign because of the anti-Semitic behaviour and people creating evidence against Jewish fans which simply didn't exist because it was AI. And so there's a new chief constable going into that force, and there really needs to be a change where they start to act without fear or favour. That's the oath that you took as a constable. So you don't look at people's skin colour or whether they're gay or straight or male or female. You should be treating people exactly the same. And they've lost this along the way. And I know later we're going to speak about Lord Blunkett's report, and it all, one thing feeds into the other here: bad leadership and bad training.
Yeah, well, that is exactly what we're going to talk about next, Mike. So you stay where you are. When we come back, folks, as Mike said, we're going to discuss former Labour Cabinet Secretary David Blunkett's new report on the dire state of the police, him saying that there's a shallow talent pool, nepotism, jobs for the boys, and that he said the scourge of woke policing, coppers getting involved in identity politics, must end. It must be stopped. Well, David, Lord Blunkett, I think your sentiments are exactly right, but the way the coppers are, good luck with that. We'll talk about that next. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is
we're still with former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Mike, we need to go on to this new report for the College of Policing. It was commissioned by the College of Policing. Into Modern Policing by Lord David Blunkett. Also, it was produced along with Conservative Policing Minister Lord Herbert. Now, what David Blunkett has concluded, and I don't think the College of Policing will be very pleased, College of Policing is where most of police wokery and this identity politics claptrap emerges from. They're the people responsible for brainwashing all these young coppers into believing that there is nothing more important than racism, that more important than catching people for murder, rape, all the heinous crimes. More important than that is coppers must not be seen to be racist. That's the College of Policing. So Lord Blunkett's report concludes that the police service in England and Wales is not good enough and its leadership needs an ethical reset. He said there are significant causes for concern and a fundamental overhaul is required, particularly in terms of wokery, identity politics, which he says should be nothing to do with the police. They should concentrate on catching the bad guys and stop worrying about wokery. I mean, he's right. Him and Lord Herbert are exactly right. Everybody knows that. But knowing the College of Policing, telling the College of Policing to drop all the wokery is a forlorn project, isn't it? These people are wokery central. They've been told before to drop their wokery. They will receive this report, in my view, file it under don't bother and not do anything about it.
Well, it's like when we saw when the Supreme Court ruled what a woman was, that the police said, "Oh, we'll review this." No, the court has said what it is. A woman is a woman, a man is a man. Just accept that. But there's another review, and like you say, it's infested with wokery, and so they'll be really struggling to, we've had 2 or 3 decades of this, Kevin, and so it's in their blood. You've got really to change things. You've got to change the people at the top, and there is some hope. I know Sir Stephen Watson, who's the Greater Manchester Police Chief. I've dealt with the Hertfordshire Police, and the chief there has said, unsurprisingly, crime fighting is a number one concern. And it's odd that the police have to say that, because in this report, Lord Blunkett and Lord Herbert say the police should focus on catching criminals. Well, it's come to something, hasn't it, when the police have got to be told to do that. But that's the way of it. We've seen all these non-crime hate incidents. And again, with that, they were told by the Suella Braverman,
they were told to stop recording non-crime hate, and they ignored it. She also told them, Mike, she also told police chiefs, quite reasonably, can you stop immediately referring to anyone who reports a rape or being beaten up or whatever as the victim? So as soon as somebody says, I've been raped, the police say, you are a rape victim. No, they're an alleged rape victim.
The complainant was what they used to be called. You used to have the complainant and the suspect. And like you say, it's all this, we must believe the victim. No, we live in Britain where we used to deal with evidence and facts. Yes, we treat people with dignity and respect, but it doesn't mean you simply believe everything that you're told, because sometimes, for whatever reason, people tell lies, whether they're accused of a crime or alleging a crime. But these are very basic things. And to get back the trust and confidence in police, there needs to be a wholesale change. And I remember when I was a young officer, I thought, I could be a commander or something like that. And an article came out saying there'd be no more characters promoted. And I thought, that's me done. Because I'm done for it. Because
she's screwed.
It is, because if you remember the 80s, there used to be a film called Revenge of the Nerds. Well, the nerds have taken over, haven't they, in every aspect of our life.
They've taken their revenge.
And this USB port, they stick it in their head, and they're committed to whatever the USB port tells them: diversity, DEI, human rights, whatever, climate change, and all these things, equity.
Let's have a quick look at Lord Blunkett speaking to Ian Collins earlier.
So I don't think people would expect the police to take the knee, not because they might not be deeply empathetic, but because that's not the job. Their job is to be absolutely scrupulously independent, whether it's of waving flags or whether it's taking the knee or whatever else it might be, wearing badges. That's not the job. The job is to prevent crime, to protect people and to prosecute where necessary. We spent 9 months. Nick Herbert was the former Conservative Police Minister, now Chair of the College of Policing. He said, would I do this? I said, I'll do it jointly with you 9 months ago. It's been a hell of a task. More in the last 9 months about the police than I did in the near 4 years I was Home Secretary, partly because things are hidden from you, partly I think things have actually seriously got worse. So we've got a task, and it's a task that benefits the police and all those serving in it, because they want good leaders, they want honest, decent promotion prospects, they want to be treated well, and the public want exactly the same. So there's no divide here between what's good for the public, us, and what's good for the policing service. These things go together. I want future Home Secretaries to be able to go in and people to tell them the truth and not find that afterwards they're done over on the back of it.
Yeah, it's a nice hope, Mike. But my prediction is that the College of Policing, the incorrigibly woke College of Policing, which is responsible for brainwashing all these young coppers into alleged anti-white racism, into wokery, you know, into into two-tier policing, which he talks about a lot. Blunkett absolutely condemns two-tier policing, does not for a second, like Keir Starmer, say it does not exist. He says it does exist and it is the scourge of policing. He calls for an ethical reset, a complete change in the way the police is run so they can get back to basics, catch the bad guys and forget about identity politics, community relations, dancing the Macarena and all that claptrap. You know, well, let's just say it. They won't listen, will they? They won't do anything about this because they do not like being told, don't be woke. They like being woke. They think that's what policing is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it would take a supreme effort. And what I've compared it with in the past is after the Second World War, the Allied powers did this program of denazification throughout Germany, and that took a lot of effort to drive that wickedness away from Germany and turn it into a solid democratic state, particularly West Germany. And we need to do the same in this country. We need to drive out woke. It is an absolute cancer. It is driven down where we were told being nice and all this would make trust and confidence in the police higher. It's at rock bottom. The level of crimes being solved is at rock bottom. So somehow they've got to change. I always say I'm not here to moan. I'm here to help. I'm constantly emailing Mark Rowley saying, let me come back and I'll help you catch more criminals. But all I get is ignored. So I offer my services again to whoever wants me. You know, I can help you solve lots more crime with my expertise. And there'll be other officers like me who appear on this station who say the same things. We're not here to moan and complain. We know there's lots of good officers, particularly at the bottom, who are working hard. An experience such as ours could be used to turn this around because the public aren't interested. The police seem to think if we throw loads of officers out for not booking out a radio or some or saying this thing or this when they were drunk in the pub, this will increase trust and confidence. I don't think it does at all. What will increase trust and confidence is when somebody gets their house burgled, they feel they can ring up the police will come and do a good job and do the best at catching the burglar. That's what will it will increase trust and confidence.
Absolutely. Well said, Mike. Good to talk to you. Thank you for coming on. Mike Neville, former Met Police detective on this shocking case in Birmingham. Have we witnessed another serious case of anti-white racism on the part of the police, and this shock report by David Blunkett calling for common sense, calling for a return to basic policing, catch the bad guys, don't worry about wokery. But it's the College of Policing. They're the ones who invented all this police wokery. They're the ones who just didn't listen to then Home Secretary Suella Braverman when she said stop recording crime, hate incidents. If it's not a crime, it's nothing to do with the police. Quite right, of course. They didn't listen. They just carried on. They don't. They're steeped in wokery. Do you have any confidence that they'll sort themselves out? 03444991000. When we come back, we'll talk to political commentator Benedict Spence about the Nigel Farage situation. All over the front pages, day in, day out, over his money, over Reform UK's money. Is he the victim of an establishment stitch-up? Are they out to get him? 03444991000. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
The thing that most makes me angry about Keir Starmer, talking about the need to defend our country, and he's gone out of his way to not make the tough decisions, to actually do the thing to defend our nation. It's cowardly, and I think it's treacherous.
Nothing to say on immigration, nothing to say on benefits, nothing to say on jobs, nothing to say on tax. Absolutely appalling. If this is the solution the country's been waiting for, then we are in a very, very bad place.
People up and down the country are asking why they are always being put second. They work every day, they get up, they pay their bills, they look after their kids, and yet the other side of the social contract is not being held up.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to political commentator Benedict Spence. Welcome, Benedict.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm all right. I wonder how Nigel Farage is this morning. Furious, we hear, because he is now, caught in a long-running campaign now, which seems to be aimed at sort of undermining him in the minds of potential voters. He says he's the victim of a classic establishment stitch-up, now appearing on front pages of newspapers almost every day, somehow to do with his money. We know that the row is still raging about the £5 million free gift he got from crypto billionaire Christopher Harborne. He is under investigation. Did he not declare that within a year of becoming an MP? He was nailed last week for the 5 homes he bought cash after the Brexit vote. I don't think there's anything against him doing that as a private citizen. I'm not sure he broke any rules there. But he is accused of perhaps breaking the rules when it comes to a guy called George Cottrell, a close ally of his, close political friend, who is also known as Posh George. Posh George is a sort of rich aristocrat type who has been donating to reform. He's a convicted fraudster, so the Times seems to be suggesting that is a wrong in itself, although I don't think it's against the rules. He's paid his debt to society and all that. So Farage is saying I'm just being subjected to a classic establishment stitch-up. They're trying to undermine me, stop me from gaining power. Do you think that he's got cause for complaint? Is he justified in that?
Yes, but, and this is, I think that this is important to bear in mind, is that as far as we know, Nigel Farage has done nothing untoward. That's very important to say. And until
he denies it, he very much denies he's done anything
very much
wrong.
denies it. And until an investigation proves otherwise, it would be very wrong to suggest that he has. As you said, George Cottrell is a convicted fraudster, but, he has paid his debt to society. That said, Nigel Farage has been in this game long enough to know the rules of the game. He knows full well that the established media in this country do not care if you've done something wrong or not. They will try to pin something on you regardless, whether or not there is something definitively wrong about it, if they think they can spin it as some sort of moral query. That has always been the name of the game. It doesn't matter if what you're doing is illegal. If they can kick up enough fuss about it to sort of impugn your character, they will try to do it. And, some people will say it's politically motivated. Other people will say it's just because this sells copy. This sells stories, it sells newspapers, people tune in to listen to it. All of the above can be true. If Farage didn't want to be caught up in this sort of thing, there was a very easy way of avoiding that, and that was being unbelievably extra transparent about it all at the start, or not getting involved with these sorts of
Do you
people
think he's been careless? Do you think he's been careless, Benedict? Because he's got two examples or two cases where he's accused of not declaring financial donations and income in the 12 months leading up to him becoming an MP. You're supposed to declare all of that. Do you think he's been careless in perhaps not being careful enough about that?
Well, when it came to the £5 million, I believe he wasn't planning on becoming an MP at that point.
Right.
He was very much of the opinion that he said this at the start, that this was for security. And frankly, I was prepared to buy that line because everybody knows Nigel Farage is an incredibly divisive figure. There are a lot of lunatics in this country who seem to think that he's the devil. I can absolutely see why he would need personal security. He wasn't going to be provided that.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
Why shouldn't he get that money from personal donors?
What about the George Cottrell money?
Well, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because George Cottrell is one of those figures who, as you say, has been a known Farage associate for a very, very long time. Anybody who knows anything about reform knows who George Cottrell is. And it's one of those where you can understand they have a very close relationship, and you can also understand why Nigel Farage would say, listen, we have a system whereby if you serve your time, ultimately, society is supposed to forgive you and you're supposed to move on. And that is George Cottrell. But he shouldn't therefore be under any illusions that at some point this wouldn't have been used against him. It doesn't matter if George Cottrell has done the right thing and served his time. This was always going to be used as a stick.
It doesn't look good. That is the problem. I'm going to have to go now, Benedict, but thank you very, very much. Benedict Spence, their political commentator. Next up, Mark Littlewood on all the big stories of the day. Stay exactly where you are.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now, my next guest, I think, might be just about as bleary-eyed as I am right now. In fact, millions of us are. I mean, it was bad enough when they were going to kick off at 1 a.m. and then they announced it's going to be 2 a.m. and like millions of us, oh my God, you know, it's a no-sleep night. But the director of popular conservatism, Mark Littlewood, is quite a football fan, so I'm guessing he didn't get much sleep either. Did you, Mark?
No, Kev. I mean, basically, I haven't slept for 3.5 weeks now, having followed the World Cup right throughout, trying to watch every game. So my body has sort of adjusted to it, a bit like the England players managed to adjust to the altitude eventually. So, yeah, but I wouldn't have missed a single kick of that game for the world. What a match.
Yeah, I must admit, when they announced, oh, it's not going to kick off until 2 a.m., I was thinking, do I care that much about England? I was going through a sort of crisis of conscience. And then I thought, you've got to watch this, Kev. You've got to watch this. And I'm really glad I did. But we're all pretty tired right now. Well, let's talk about this extraordinary story to do with the World Cup, which I think takes on much wider implications. It is leading news agendas all over the world today, not just for sporting reasons. It is this bizarre intervention by Donald Trump into the banning of the American forward, the USA forward, Folarin Balogun, who got a red card in the last tie and therefore is automatically banned for their quarter-final match against Belgium. By the way, let's just say at the outset, respect to USA. What a great team they are. They are a very, very good team. The dark horses of this tournament, seriously, fully deserve to be in the quarter-final. And by the way, I happen to know that the USA team are very unhappy about their president's intervention. They don't want any special treatment. They don't need it. They're good enough not to have the president sticking his boot in. But he gets in touch with the FIFA president and says, you can't ban the American Folarin Balogun. You know, that wasn't that bad an offence. Come on, that was in the last game. His argument was, that's in the last game. You can't punish him for the next game. Well, actually, Donald, that is the way they do it in football or soccer, as you would contend. So, you know, I don't really want to see President Trump saying, you know, that Harry Kane is a great soccer game player. You know, it's like, what do you know about soccer? You don't know the first thing about it. Anyway, the extraordinary thing about this is that FIFA has taken the president's call and gone, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, Mr. President, sir. And this guy, Folarin Balogun, can now play against Belgium. That's a disgrace. Belgium are furious. What on earth is going on? What do FIFA think they're playing at?
Yeah. Kev, it's a total disaster for football. I've got to be as clear as that about it. The rules are unambiguous here. If you are sent off in a match, you are suspended for the next match of the tournament. Now, I watched the USA's game against Bosnia and Herzegovina, and you can argue about whether Balogun should have been given a red card. It's marginal. It's sort of one of those that some people call an orange card. You know, you could potentially have given a yellow, you could potentially have given a red. But the decision was made after a VAR review on the pitch. And although it might be a harsh decision, the decision was made. Football is over if we are going to re-referee games after they have concluded. What about Kwanzaa for us, who got sent off against...
Thomas Tuchel said that maybe Kwanzaa should give the president a ring so he can get in touch with FIFA and to get him off. Something has to be done about this, because this single decision in my view, completely undermines the entire tournament. This, of course, after FIFA made, crawled up Trump's backside by making him, international FIFA sports peace president for all time or some such rubbish. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I think it's well worth saying here that in my view, Kev, the villain of the piece here is FIFA, not President Trump, right? I mean, President Trump, we know he shoots off his opinion in all directions about all manner of things. Sometimes I wish politicians would shut up about sport rather than sticking their oar in. But if he wants to come out bombastically in public and say that he disagrees with that refereeing decision, if he even wants to phone FIFA about it, well, the president's answerable to his electorate. But FIFA should have told him where to go shove his opinion and to say, look, you're entitled to that opinion, but we do not re-referee matches. I'm afraid, Mr. President, even if you disagree with the decision, he cannot play in the next game. We are not, I mean, it's supposed to be an article of faith that political pressure can't intervene in footballing decisions. This has not occurred since 1962, where Garanchea was sent off in one match and was able to play the other. But way back then, Kev, it wasn't an automatic rule that you would be suspended from the next game. So if the 48 teams, the 48 nations go into the tournament knowing the rules, those rules are clear, how a red card is adjudicated, what the penalties are for a particular player if they receive one, and it seems that President Trump and the FIFA committee have decided to change those rules mid-tournament. It's a total disgrace. Although I am an Atlanticist, I will be hoping and praying that Belgium knock the USA out tonight, because anything else, I'm afraid, brings the tournament into disrepute.
Yeah, well, let's have a quick look at the President Trump, confirming this deranged intervention, if you ask me. But here he is.
And I'm a person that loves sports and was a good athlete. And I understand sports really well, really well. And that wasn't a foul. That wasn't even an infraction. That was two guys running full speed that happened to crash into each other. You can't take your foot and properly place it on somebody else's foot when you're going, no, these were two great athletes that got tangled up, and this referee, who is a little bit suspect, if you check his past. I don't want to say that because I don't like to create controversy, but very suspect.
Yeah, he doesn't like to create controversy. Let me tell you, I'm a great admirer of President Trump, but what he knows about what he would call soccer and what we call football, you can shove up a gnat's backside. He doesn't know anything about football at all. And to see this guy, this complete soccer ignoramus, sounding off about what went on here and being listened to by FIFA President Gianni Infantino is just absurd. It's bizarre. Now, Infantino has just released, literally last 5 minutes, released this statement. It's rather long. I've seen the public comments regarding the decision of the independent FIFA disciplinary committee relating to the suspension of Folarin Balogun, and I would like to reiterate a fundamental principle of FIFA's governance, blah, 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 blah. He says, I regularly discuss matters related to the FIFA World Cup with the President of the United States, and on this matter I did receive a call from President Donald Trump, just as I received calls from heads of state, government officials, football stakeholders and business executives from around the world on many different issues. During our conversation I explained there was an ongoing legal process, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it doesn't actually say in this statement, and I buckled and I did what the president said. That's what he's done. He's given this guy, Folarin Balogun, special treatment. The only player in the entire tournament who has been sent off but will not be suspended for the next game. This, unless something is done about this, this whole World Cup is undermined.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Kev. And it's even worse than that. So I've dug into the details behind this. It's without getting too technical about it, this decision has been made under Article 27 of FIFA's rules. That does allow an independent committee to intervene. But one can only presume that it is supposed to intervene if there has been some utterly demonstrable injustice, such as, for example, a player fails a drugs test, but it then turns out that the laboratory screwed up the drugs test. Or imagine a scenario, hard to believe it would happen now under VAR, but we've occasionally seen it in the past, where the wrong player is sent off. There's a misidentification. You think player number 4 committed the offence, and it was actually player number 5. In those sort of circumstances where it is completely black and white, that the player is utterly blameless and some terrible mistake has occurred, well, then I could just about understand the intervention. But as I say, Balogun's sending off, whilst soft, you could argue against it, is not black and white. Donald Trump doesn't know what he's talking about here. It's arguable. And, you know, what are we going to do next? Shall we replay the 1986 World Cup quarter-final because of Maradona's hand of God? When does that go to a replay? There's been all sorts of controversial decisions in all sorts of tournaments. And unless you can show something utterly dramatic, like match fixing, for example, then the result stands. That's how it must be. And if football is going to have committees of bureaucrats re-refereeing matches after they have finished, you are right to say the entire tournament is in absolute jeopardy here. You can watch the match, you can hear the final whistle, but you won't necessarily know the outcome or the consequences because FIFA doesn't think it needs to stick to its own rulebook and protocols. It's a disgrace.
Why are footballing authorities, you know, be they international or national, also utterly useless? I mean, can't this guy, this Fiorentino guy, the Infantino guy, Gianni Infantino, can't he see how bad this looks? Can't he see that the best thing for him to do would say, thank you very much, President Trump, but you will understand these are the competition rules. Thanks for your interest. Now bugger off. Can't he see what this looks like? Can't he see that he's undermining the whole tournament with this bizarre subservience to the President of the United States to somehow give the American team special advantage? It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's dangerous. Unfortunately, Kev, FIFA is basically a highly politicised, let me put this kindly, opaque organisation. You almost need to treat the head of FIFA, Infantino as it is now, as the kind of president of a minor, rather undemocratic nation who has secured his position owing to favours, back-scratching and all of the rest of it. And usually people in that sort of position do tend to lick up to the President of the United States of America. Look, one thing I think we do need to take out of the USA's book when it comes to sports is not hydration breaks or splitting the game into 4 quarters, an abomination as far as I'm concerned, but it's the way they run their sports. If you look at how American football or NFL is run, or baseball under Major League Baseball, even American soccer, as they call it, ice hockey, basketball, these are brilliantly run. Typically no corruption. They make the sports profitable. They are on a very sound financial basis, but they are fair and even-handed. And I think we need a complete overhaul of FIFA. The entire system does not work. This is not exactly the first controversy that FIFA have run into over the years. It needs to be completely overhauled. It is yet another failed international institution, and we should treat it, I think, as the basic political racket it is. I just hope that this insane decision, unconscionable decision from a sporting point of view, does not ruin the tournament. And sad to say, because I agree with what you've said, Kev, about the American team have been spectacularly good to watch, but sad to say, if you want to protect the sanctity of football, you've got to be crossing your fingers on your hands and knees and praying for Belgium to knock out the United States of America later tonight.
Yeah, and respect to the USA team, they're mortified by this. Yeah. They neither want nor need any special advantages given to them. They're a damn fine team who... I don't know. I mean, I would probably put money on them to beat Belgium. Belgium not as strong as they usually are. But that notwithstanding, this whole match tonight and everything has been undermined by...
Well, Kev, They could unilaterally decide not to field this player, right? They could unilaterally decide to do that. Look, I know that's incredibly difficult because this isn't just one player they rely on. This is their star man, right? This would be the equivalent of Bellingham or Kane missing or Rice missing a key match. This is one of their absolute standout players. This guy is a striker for AS Monaco.
No, he's their talisman. Yeah, they need him.
Now, I would hope if this had happened, let's say, to Harry Kane, not that there's any chance whatsoever that Prime Minister Starmer or soon-to-be Prime Minister Burnham would wield anything like the same influence in a phone call to FIFA. But imagine in a parallel universe that they did. I would hope that the England team would stick to the original rules, and even if the player wasn't formally suspended because of some jiggery-pokery by FIFA, I would hope that they would leave the player out of the squad. That would be the honourable thing for the US team to do now if they want to support the sanctity of the competition. I can understand the temptation. He's our talisman. He's our best player. We want to win this match. We want him on the pitch. But another route out of it would be for Team USA to say, you know what, this isn't right. He's going to have to sit this one out. We're going to have to try and win the game without him, even though he's technically eligible to play.
Yeah, that would be the decent thing to do, but let's see what happens. Just before we go, on the international stage, Keir Starmer, who has enjoyed his foreign trips so much, the most travelled Prime Minister we've ever had, Air Miles Keir. Well, he's got off on his very last jet-setting jaunt for Britain. He's off to Turkey for the NATO summit, where he is going to find that his attempts to gaslight the British public. I mean, I'm still reeling from his resignation speech in Downing Street. Do you remember that? Among the many achievements he listed for himself, one was restoring confidence in British defence spending. I mean, that's just a lie. Talk of gaslighting. Well, he's going to get to Turkey. Donald Trump will be there, and he will say, "Oh, you know, we are going to be spending 2.7% of our GDP by 2030." Donald Trump's going to say, "Well, I have more like 3% in mind, and by the way, I think the commitment is for 5% by 2035. You don't seem to be showing any enthusiasm for that." So he can gaslight and lie to the British public. He's not going to succeed in gaslighting Donald Trump, is he? So his final foreign trip, I think, could be one long humiliation. He has let this nation down. He is not spending enough on defence. And by the way, Andy Burnham is furious because he never told him that he was going to leave him with at least £5 billion to honour the defence investment plan. The whole thing is a shambles.
Yes, it is a shambles. And look, the defence of the realm is the government's top priority, damn well should be. We've got to have proper defending on defence to make it robust. I'm afraid, despite the good efforts of the men and women who work in the military, we've let it fall into disrepair. And Keir Starmer's done nothing to fix it. You're right, Kev, it's been pulling the wool over our eyes, gaslighting, as you call it. It's lamentable, really, and he's rightly going to be called out by Donald Trump. We've got to be very careful, not just the UK, but the entirety of Europe. The Americans have now woken up to the fact that they are not willing to provide on their own dollar the cost of defending the EU, so, or indeed, say, Ukraine. So if European countries do not step up to the plate, I think that you cannot count on the continued loyal and active friendship of the USA in military affairs. So I'm afraid Starmer's legacy of jet-setting around the world is going to end in humiliation. Really, his only lasting legacy to the British people, as far as I'm concerned, Kev, is he allowed the pubs to stay open until 5 o'clock in the morning to watch England beat Mexico. 3 cheers for that, but not much of a legacy for 2 years as Prime Minister, is it?
I think it's not really his fault. There's probably quite a few people in the country who wished he had not got the pubs to open until 5 a.m. today. But yesterday it seemed like a great idea at the time. We're all struggling a bit today, but that was one hell of a match, and what a result. Mark, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on. Mark Littlewood, fanatical football fan and director of Popular Conservatism there. Next up, we're going to talk about this rape gang monster, Shabir Ahmed, who was released on Thursday after 14 years of a sentence, 22-year sentence that he received for raping 30 children. His victims, who were still up there, he's now able to walk among his terrified victims. They're now receiving or being offered special security. And the Tories are coming up with a way for the Labour government, if they so choose, to change the law in order to deport this fiend, this monster, this animal. But the Labour government doesn't seem at all interested. It seems rather happy, content with the fact that this guy's walking the streets. He should never have been allowed out. Only 20 months ago, it turns out the parole board decided he was far too dangerous to release. 20 months ago. Far too dangerous. 20 months later, yeah, it's fine. What happened in 1 year and 8 months? Not much, I would suggest. But they say a whole lot happened, so now this guy is safe to let out on the streets. But he's not, is he? Otherwise, why would his victims be supplied with special security? Guy's an absolute threat to British children. He's a paedophile. He's a monster paedophile. What is going on? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
The thing that most makes me angry about Keir Starmer talking about the need to defend our country, and he's gone out of his way to not make the tough decisions to actually do the thing to defend our nation. It's cowardly, and I think it's treacherous.
Nothing to say on immigration, nothing to say on benefits, nothing to say on jobs, nothing to say on tax. Absolutely appalling. If this is the solution the country's been waiting for, then we are in a very, very bad place.
People up and down the country are asking why they are always being put second. They work every day, they get up, they pay their bills, they look after their kids, and yet the other side of the social contract is not being held up.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go over to former Labour MP, now Reform UK, Simon Danjuk, former MP for Rochdale, am I right? Where Shabir Ahmad, a notorious rape gang leader, was released last Thursday after serving just 14 years of a 22-year sentence after being found guilty of raping 30 children. So there's a lot of questions about why he was released in the first place, and even more questions about why the Labour government doesn't seem to be doing anything to try and get this man deported. Now, first of all, let's talk about his release. Right, he was released sort of after a parole board decision, after 14 years of this sentence. A lot of people are saying, hang on, he raped 30 children and he only got 22 years and we let him out after 14. Is this a serious country, or do we now go easy on child rapists? Because it seems that we do. A lot of people asking about that. 22 years, not long enough. Then we let him out after 14. Why are we letting him out? What was the mania about putting this guy before the Reform Board and saying, maybe you could consider letting him out? Well, it turns out that wasn't the first time they've done it. They first sat in judgment on this guy after 10 years, so 4 years ago. And they decided then, far too dangerous to even think about letting out. He's a prolific paedophile who will pose a threat, a risk to the children of this country, British children, obviously. So that was the right decision. And now we learn that actually the last time they sat in judgment was only 20 months ago, 1 year and 8 months ago, where again they decided that Shabir Ahmed, a prolific, dangerous paedophile, a raper of 30 children, must not be let out onto the streets because clearly he is a danger to underage people of this country, to children, to women probably as well. That's 20 months ago. Then suddenly, boom, oh yeah, it's okay to release him now. What was the mania, the continuing mania about letting this guy out, Simon?
It's a very good question, Kevin. You're exactly right. I was the MP for Rochdale from 2010 to 2017, and it was in 2012 that this paedophile and his associates were successfully prosecuted. And, you know, he was prosecuted for the rape of 30 children, but the reality is that he attacked and raped and assaulted many more than that. That's the truth of it. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And whilst I was the MP dealing with this issue, not only did I call out the perpetrators, making it clear that they were Pakistani and that it was the fact that they were Muslim was a key factor in the abuse that took place, I also met and helped a good number of the victims of these perpetrators. And they've been through hell and back. There is no doubt about that. And I can only guess as to how they feel now that this guy is being released. I think it's absolutely appalling. It's been handled badly from day one, to be quite honest.
I mean, you know, there must have been ways to say, well, if you must come before the Reform Board, they're not going to let you out. There must have been ways for them to come to that decision. And I have no idea why a man found guilty of raping 30 children was considered for release after 10 years. And then again, 4 years later when he was released, but we now know he was also considered only 1 year and 8 months ago for release. Now that also brings into question, Simon, what the authorities have been up to, because they knew this guy was coming up. The government knew he was coming out. We know that because of these parole board cases. So they knew that his release could be imminent. And yet they seem completely unprepared for it, because when he was released last Thursday, he's going to be put in secure accommodation. He's been given an electronic tag, which gives no comfort or solace to his victims, some of whom have been so terrified that they've now been provided with special security arrangements, special protection. They're so terrified that their tormentor, the man who raped them, is now out on the streets. Now, of course, you know the story. We can't deport him because although we stripped him of his citizenship when we sent him to prison, because he gained British citizenship before 1973, at a time when Pakistan was still a British colony. For some reason, that means that legally we can't deport him from this country. The law needs to be changed. Now, we know that the government can change laws very, very quickly if it wants to. It changed the licensing laws last week in about 2 hours in order to allow pubs to open throughout last night for the England game, so they can do it if they want. The Tories have even, Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, has actually given them a blueprint of exactly what they can do to repeal or change the immigration law, the clauses in that law, to allow us to be able to deport Shabir Ahmad. They said, this is what you've got to do, these are the clauses you have to get rid of. Everybody else in the country saying, well, whatever you have to do it. Change the law, deport this man, get him out of our country. He's a threat.
Absolutely.
But my question to you is, why is it that the Labour government they're not even commenting? They're not saying anything. They haven't done anything, and they don't seem to be intending to do anything. Why are they not interested in looking into ways of getting this man out of the country? Are they more interested in his human rights or something?
I genuinely don't think they want to deport him. I think that's the reality of it. And I can't see why he couldn't serve his full 22 years in prison and or be deported. That's what could have happened. And it's interesting that the victims were assured that the guys were prosecuted, that when they'd finished serving the time, that they would be deported. The victims were told this. When I campaigned as an MP in around 2014 for the perpetrators, because there's more than just this guy, to be deported, not once was I told about the 1971 Immigration Act and the fact that that would make it difficult to deport these people. This seems to have come up all of a sudden. But I'll tell you what, from having represented people in the Muslim Pakistani community, they are not enthusiastic about their brothers being deported. That's the reality of it. And I suspect that Labour MPs are concerned that if they do deport these people, they will have a backlash within those communities. So it comes down to politics and votes, I'm sorry to say, and that's why I don't think we're seeing much activity from the Labour Party or the Labour government. You've got to remember, Keir Starmer recently appointed Harriet Harman as his advisor on women and girls and security for those people. She hasn't commented once on this very issue. What's that all about? They are actively avoiding deporting this man.
Yeah, and Andy Burnham, in fairness to him, our King Andy, our Prime Minister in waiting, who will take over the reins on July the 20th, in fairness to him, he's shown a reasonable political antenna in realising that people are very upset about this and saying that he agrees with the vast majority, actually he agrees with virtually everyone in this country, that this monster should be deported back to his own country. We have a subsidiary problem insofar as Pakistan is saying it's not ours, he's not our responsibility, we're not taking him. While he was born there, I don't think they have any choice. I think we should foist this guy on Pakistan and say, deal with it, otherwise you're getting no more visas for your citizens, you're getting no more massive foreign aid. We give Pakistan billions of pounds every year. So we need to tell them to accept their international responsibilities. We need our government to get this law changed quick, and we need to get them out of the country, don't we?
Absolutely. But, you know, if you ask people in Greater Manchester about Andy Burnham's record on the rape gangs that operated in that area, they would quickly tell you that he doesn't have a very good record. He held some very shallow inquiries that didn't really reach any significant conclusions and certainly didn't result in anybody who enabled the abuse to take place being prosecuted, whether that was in Greater Manchester Police or in local authorities. So Andy Burnham doesn't have a great record. We're receiving some warm words from him around this issue, but that's about it. But you're exactly right. we should put all the pressure on Pakistan to take this guy back. But it raises another issue, doesn't it? Keir Starmer, the Labour Prime Minister, abolished the Rwanda plan as soon as he came into office. Now, if that was still in place, this guy, this abuser, this rapist of children could quite easily be removed from Britain and sent to Rwanda. But because he abolished the plan, that can't be done either.
We need to get this guy off the streets. And the Labour government ought to realise that's what people want. It's extraordinary. They're just maintaining a wall of silence on this extremely pressing issue that involves the safety of women and children on the streets of Rochdale and the North. I mean, it's all wrong, Simon. Excellent to have you on, as always. Thank you so much, mate. Simon Danczuk, their former Labour MP for Rochdale, right at the heart of this, where this monster, Shabir Ahmed, is from, where he is currently terrorising his former victims just by the fact that he is now a free man on the streets. What do you think? Why won't Labour do anything about this? Do, as Simon says, do you think they actually, they don't want to deport him, do they? They think it might upset the Muslim community and they might lose the Muslim vote. Well, they've lost it already, so I don't know why they're so worked up. Let me know what you think. 03444 991 1000. When we come back, we'll talk to Robert Bates, Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Well, we need to get latest on the migrant crisis, but also, over the past year, 70 Foreign Office workers have been investigated for, accused of, arrested or charged with sexual offences, sex crimes. What's going on? 03444 991 1000. We'll talk about that next. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go over to my next guest. He's the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. Welcome, Robert.
Evening, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on. Well, first of all, just this rather prosaic, interesting fact that struck me in the papers over the weekend just seemed very strange. Over the past year, 70 Foreign Office workers have been accused of sexual crimes in just 1 year. The Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office had 129 sexual exploitation, abuse and harassment complaints in the last financial year. 55% of cases its staff were subjected to the complaint, while 45%, around 58 people, involved situations where its workers were the alleged victims. The Foreign Office has 17,500 staff, and in that time 114 cases were closed. But that seems like a hell of a lot, doesn't it? 70 of them involved in allegations of sexual crimes, sexual misdemeanours, harassment, sometimes arrest, sometimes investigation. Just seems like a high number. What do you think's going on?
Well, of course, and the only really acceptable number would be 0. And it does look like when you go back a few years, the rate does seem to be increasing somewhat. It would be interesting to see a bit more of the detail of where the individuals that had these complaints levied against them were based, whether they were actually, the stuffed shirts in white, or actually they were a bit further afield, and the backgrounds of the individuals as well would be quite interesting to see whether they were sort of local individuals recruited by the Foreign Office, or actually British individuals sent over to different parts of the world. But either way, this is something that you do sadly see a lot of, especially in sort of vulnerable parts of the world, where individuals that have somewhat of a status, have a bit of authority, abuse it. And I think it is something that actually you would hope the British government of all institutions would be really taking a no-nonsense approach to. But as I say, it does seem to be a situation that is increasing. And, I think it is also worth noting, of course, you saw during sort of some of the disasters in Haiti, for instance, Oxfam workers getting involved in pretty untoward acts. And I think there is an element of this, of individuals with a lot of power and not much oversight going down incredibly dark paths.
Well, let's move on to another element, of foreign affairs, the migrant crisis. It was March 2024 when the Home Office, the government in effect, banned care workers, foreign care workers, from bringing family members with them to live in this country. As you know, previously, a care worker would be allowed here. Same deal for certain types of students. And they could then, once they were allowed, they could bring basically their entire family over. It was causing all sorts of problems. So they shut that door, as it were, in March 2024. But it turns out that those who were already here before those restrictions were introduced can still bring as many dependents as they want to the UK, and they still are. So despite this alleged bid to close this loophole, migrant workers are still bringing in family members, these are mostly care workers, at a ratio as high as 15 for every worker, despite these restrictions. So once again, another element of the migrant crisis spiralling out of control with effectively nothing being done about it.
And that's exactly the point. Nothing has been done. We've been told the routes have been slammed shut, but actually what you do see is these gaping back doors still remaining well and truly open. The care visa was one of the most disastrous immigration policy decisions ever taken by the British government. It's been seen rampant fraud. It's seen hundreds of thousands of low-skilled individuals come into Britain and bringing with them hundreds of thousands of family members, more dependents than actual care workers. And it's not alleviated any of the crisis in the care sector either. And this is what we talk about when we talk about the Boris wave. There are these huge fiscal costs that are just waiting to be put onto the shoulders of the British taxpayers, especially if the Home Secretary's reforms to indefinite leave to remain are kicked into the long grass or completely abandoned by Andy Burnham. Then we will see these individuals be given the right to settlement, and actually will then have the right to bring even more family members should they so wish. This is something that was completely unmonitored. It completely exploded very early on into a state of absolute chaos. And when you just look online and you see all these immigration lawyers and advisors just sort of chuckling to themselves about how easy this pathway has been to give individuals what really is a pathway to long-term settlement in this country. And I think it's something that actually a government that cares about the future fiscal and cultural stability of Britain would be looking to clamp down on, and would say if you come on a care visa, then we're afraid you're not going to be able to get indefinite leave to remain and you will have to return home. That is really actually at this point the only way we can avert this crisis that is looming on the horizon.
Just to give you a couple of examples, so a group, total of 1,029 skilled worker visas issued to Pakistanis resulted in them bringing with them, so this is just over 1,000 official workers allowed to come here. The small print is they brought with them So that's just over 1,000. They brought with them 6,155 dependents, 6 for every worker. Nigerians, 230 workers, brought with them 1,114 family members. This is just a racket, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the maths just doesn't add up. You don't have to be an economist to see that this is a ridiculous situation. And of course, even the idea that these individuals are essential to staving off the current crisis in the care sector, which they're not, there are other solutions available. These individuals and their numerous dependents will also get old and eventually impose long-term costs as well. And of course, actually, I think a key point that the Times does stress here is these individuals that are coming predominantly, almost entirely from outside of Europe, are far less likely than European migrants to actually return to their country of origin. Their plan when they get to Britain, in the large part, is to stay here until they reach retirement. And, after 5 years, they have the ability to get indefinitely to remain, get on the welfare state, get social housing, complete unencumbered access to the NHS, having paid in very, very little, because, of course, these individuals as well, especially on the care route, have not had to pay anything towards the NHS, which is the norm for most migrants. They've not had to pay the immigration health surcharge. So the whole care visa in particular is something that could only really have been done out of spite for this country, because it has been so destructive, and we're only just starting to see the tip of the iceberg of the damage that it will cause us.
Yeah, and I don't think matters are going to improve under Mr. Andy Burnham at all. Robert, fantastic to have you on the show. As always, thank you for joining me. That's the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, the excellent Robert Bates. What do you think about that? 1,000 Pakistani skilled workers who were allowed into the country with basically, oh, yeah, OK, if we bring 6,200 relatives with us, 230 Nigerian workers. All right, if we bring 1,500 workers with family members with us. Do you see what I mean? We let in 230, but it results in over 1,000 people coming. We let in just over 1,000 Pakistani skilled workers. That adds up to us letting in over 6,000 Pakistani people because of they're allowed to bring their relatives. This is absolutely insane, isn't it? We also let students studying Masters of Arts, so not just their degrees, when they go on to further degrees, they're allowed to bring dependents over as well. We're getting conned, folks, aren't we? Conned, absolutely conned. Got to shut this down, haven't we? Should we shut this down? 03444991000. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to man of the moment, the football writer, chief football writer for The Sun, Martin Lipton, who was, of course, at the big game last night. He didn't have to stay up till the small hours, but we did here. So we'll talk to a relatively wide awake Martin Lipton, to a relatively half asleep Kevin O'Sullivan, or when we come back. Stay where you are.
morning to you. This is Talk the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files was released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Here's a quick message from Becca, who thinks all of us at Talk are really stupid. This is what she had to say. Labour leadership battle doesn't even open until the 9th of July. Someone may stand against Burnham, but Talk doesn't seem to realise this. Well, Becca, if this helps you, I hope it does. Here's the deal. No one is going to stand against him. That's what we know at Talk. That's what you don't seem to know. I hope that helps. Right. It is competition time. You've probably noticed the 2026 World Cup is well and truly in full swing. We sure as hell have. We're making a massive month of football in style here at Talk. How would you feel about pocketing an amazing £26,000, completely tax-free? Just picture that heading straight into your bank account. You could sort the mortgage, take a proper holiday, or just take the pressure off for a bit. It's a life-changing sum. If your bank balance needs a serious lift this summer, here is everything you need to know.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 83338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP. To arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to the chief sports writer at The Sun, Martin Lipton. Hi, Martin.
Good afternoon, morning. I'm losing track of what it is.
I bet you are. I gather that you covered the excellent Norway-Brazil game yesterday, but watched the Mexico-England game in the pub in New York. We had to stay up till the middle of the night for it, but it was worth staying up for. Excellent performance by England, Martin.
Oh, terrific. I mean, they had to defend with 10 men for actually nearly 40 minutes with the extra time that was played on. They played on the counter-attack, scored 2 very good goals for Bellingham. The penalty was well won by Gordon, well executed by Kane. It ended up being a test of courage, of mentality, of fortitude, of all those sort of traits that we've seen England fail to display in the past. And they jumped over every hurdle, with the exception, of course, of Jordan Henderson, who didn't jump over the hurdle and managed to break his arm. But nevertheless...
Yeah, he got injured and didn't even play.
He got booked and broke his arm and out the tournament from a match in which he didn't play. That is truly outstanding performance. Well done, Jordan. If that's your contribution at the World Cup, it will never be forgotten.
He won't forget it, will he? Extraordinary, you're so right. Fell over during the celebrations afterwards of a match that he wasn't actually involved in and broke his arm. Only in the England camp could something like that happen. What are you making? So, I mean, we could just park it. Fantastic performance. Well done, everybody. If we carry on like that, we can certainly dare to dream. But I want to get your take, Martin, on the big story of the day. This is this extraordinary intervention by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, phoning up the president of FIFA and saying, oh, could you not suspend America's star striker for the quarter-final game against Belgium? And then, extraordinarily, FIFA saying, yeah, OK, we won't suspend him. This is a real mistake. This is a decision that I think undermines the integrity of the entire tournament.
It is, without question, in my opinion, the most disgraceful, scandalous, outrageous and unacceptable decision in the history of the World Cup. There has been no precedent. There is no justification. There is no way that this should be allowed. FIFA have ripped up their own rule book. The rules say that if you are red carded, and it was you who committed a foul, whether or not it was the correct decision is actually irrelevant. But in this case, it was a correct decision. You must serve a minimum, automatic, mandatory ban. There is no leeway. There is no latitude. There is no way around it unless it appears the President of the United States picks up the telephone. Other countries have been booted out of FIFA for political involvement, political intervention. FIFA now must boot itself out of FIFA.
Yeah, even UEFA are saying, you know, this is a terrible decision. And, you know, you got the president saying, you know, you can't commit a foul in one game and then be punished for it in the next game. Well, yeah, you can. That's part of the deterrent. Donald Trump, in his statement, making it quite clear that, you know, as I said earlier in the show, what he knows about soccer, as he would call it, you can stuff up a gnat's backside. He doesn't know anything about the game. And yet he is being listened to by FIFA and they've changed the rules for him. And we understand, Martin, to their credit, the USA team, which are really good team. They don't need any special favours. They don't want special favours. They're as upset about what the president has done and what FIFA has done as every other team. They don't want to be given any special considerations because they fancy themselves beating Belgium all on their own.
There's a serious danger here that Balogun plays, USA win the game, Belgium go to the Court of Arbitration for Sport and get the result overturned because USA have fielded an ineligible player. Because under the rules of the competition, as Belgium have pointed out, before every match, you are told that if a player is red carded, he will not be available for the next game. This is a situation we've got into now. We actually have football no longer being decided by the actions on the pitch, by the referee, even by the VAR. Now it will be decided by the lawyers. Do we really want to be in this position? No, we don't.
It is very extraordinary. Last point to go back to happier news. All good in the England camp. Any news we need to know about? They must be feeling pretty damn confident. Norway next. You saw them playing Brazil. Very good side, but I still would rather play Norway than Brazil. So that's pretty good news, I think, for England.
I would rather play Brazil than Norway.
Would you really? I'm just trying to be optimistic.
No. Norway knew they were going to beat Brazil. There was not a scintilla of doubt in their minds. They knew they were going to win. And lo and behold, they did. They're an outstanding team with an incredible strike. Look, we're going to see Kane versus Haaland. Brilliant. Isn't that fantastic? Yeah. Haaland playing against all of his Manchester City teammates. Odegaard playing against all of his Arsenal teammates. Two fantastic teams playing great football in the heat and humidity and sultriness of Miami on Saturday night. Can't wait.
Going to be amazing, Martin. Thank you so much, mate. Martin Lipton, Chief Sports Reporter for the
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
He's here, he's there, he's everybody. Where the hell is Harry? What the hell is Harry up to? The Harry go-round is driving everybody crazy. Looks like the Prince is turning up himself today. Not with Meghan, not with the kids. He has announced that, yes, he's graciously decided to accept his father's invitation to stay at Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace said, well, we asked you that about 2 weeks ago. It's too late to tell us now. We cannot organise the necessary security, make the necessary arrangements. So you can't stay at Buckingham Palace now. Too late. So if he does arrive on his own, where's he going to stay? Will Meghan and the kids turn up a couple of days hence, as is being suggested? We don't know. Will the King get to see his grandchildren Archie and Lilibet after 4 long years or not? Nobody knows. This is an utter shambles. The palace cannot quite believe what Harry and Meghan are up to. We'll talk about this with Kinsey Schofield in 20-25 minutes or so. What do you think Harry's up to? 03444991000. In the meantime, let's go through some of the big stories of the day with the deputy editor and the US editor of the Spectator magazine, Freddie Gray. Welcome, Freddie.
Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Now, are you a sports fan? Are you a football fan?
I am. I'm actually quite a keen football fan, but I have to admit I did not stay up last night, and I feel like I'm less of a man.
Well, I hereby actually appoint you less of a man for not doing that. No.
Well, do you know what put me off? I saw a tweet from. I was sort of in two minds because I was absolutely exhausted. I'd been at the F1 all day.
Yeah.
And I saw a tweet from Piers Morgan saying anyone who doesn't stay up and watch it cannot call themselves an England man. And I resent that kind of peer pressure. So I took myself off to bed.
That kind of peers pressure, yeah. And
Peers pressure.
if I'd have seen that, I'd have gone off to bed as well. But I did manage to stay up, although my spirits were very, very crushed. I think along with millions of Brits who tuned into the BBC's World Cup programme, which started at midnight, you know, expecting the game to start in an hour's time. And the first thing the presenter said was, breaking news, the game won't kick off until 2 a.m, at which point my spirit nearly broke, but I did stay the course. And I'm glad I did, because it was a hell of a game.
I wish I had.
That notwithstanding, Freddie, we do need to talk about, because this is your special area of interest, obviously, America, Trump, this extraordinary intervention by the president, Donald Trump, into the World Cup, insofar as, of course, America's star striker got a red card in the last game and should therefore, against Bosnia, and should therefore be automatically banned for their America's quarter-final match against Belgium. Now, this guy, Folarin Balogun, is a good player. He's he's America's star striker. Donald Trump, well, we'll play it in just a second. It's confirming, yeah, I got in touch with the president of FIFA, and I told him, you know, you can't punish a player in the next game for something he did in the last game. That's ridiculous. I don't think he quite understands the principle of the deterrent involved here. Well, before we discuss this, let's have a look at Donald Trump justifying his extraordinary intervention into the World Cup.
And I'm a person that loves sports and was a good athlete. And I understand sports really well. And that wasn't a foul. That wasn't even an infraction. That was two guys running full speed that happened to crash into each other. You can't take your foot and properly place it on somebody else's foot when you're going, no, these were two great athletes that got tangled up. And this referee, who is a little bit suspect, if you check his past, I don't want to say that because I don't like to create controversy, but very suspect.
Donald Trump doesn't like to cause controversy. We'll talk about that in just a second. But, you know, I know I know a lot about sports, you know. I was a great athlete and all that. But, you know, he quite clearly knows nothing, the square root of sod all about football, or soccer, as he'd call it. And this intervention in itself is wrong, bizarre and extraordinary. But what makes it even worse is that FIFA have accepted what he said, and Falarin Balogun can now play in the game against Belgium, making him the only player in the tournament to receive a red card and be excused his ban for the next game. This is undermining the entire tournament. Belgium are furious. America, the USA's not happy. They said, we don't want special privileges here. We're a good team. We can stand on our own 2 feet. All in all, this is a disaster.
It is absolutely appalling. I mean, there's just no other way of looking at it. It's outrageous. It is a corruption of the sport and so on. The problem is, as ever with Donald Trump, you just watch him talk about it, and it's just funny. You can't help but find it very funny. And I mean, what I loved was, in the same breath as he said, I know a lot about sport, he said, I didn't even know what a red card was. So I mean, it is ridiculous, but I think in his sort of 70s mind, okay, let's take the FIFA bit out of it for that, whether he's right about the red card, first of all, let's talk about it. In his mind, because his imagination is sort of frozen in the 70s and 80s. In the 70s and 80s, that wouldn't have been a red card in football now. And now, yes, it's a clear red card because it's very dangerous and so on. But to his mind, it's not a malicious tackle. I don't think it was a malicious tackle. And as other people have pointed out, Messi did a very similar tackle against Algeria earlier in the tournament and I don't think it was even called as a foul against him. And there was certainly no retrospective thing. So, you know, you might make a case that Balogun should not have had a red card. But having the President of the United States just call up FIFA, essentially demand, I mean, of course, he suggests that he didn't demand it. He just called for a review or whatever, but they did drop it. And it's well known that Infantino, the head of FIFA, sucks up to Donald Trump like crazy. So that clearly had something to do with it. And of course, it's outrageous. You can't have politicians demanding that certain things happen in sports events just because they don't like it, and then it happening because they happen to be hosting the tournament. I think also pretty interesting that UEFA, the European football governing body, has come out and very clearly criticised the decision. I think this has a potential to become like a major scandal.
I think, if it stands, it just undermines the entire tournament. As I say, credit to the USA team, who are a damn good, really good team this year. They don't want this. They're as angry as Belgium. This is a massive mistake on FIFA's part.
There's a theory that they might bench him, Balogun, and then, but you know what's going to happen if they do that? They'll then be losing, and they'll bring him on, and he'll score 2, and it will be absolute. The sense of scandal and outrage will only grow. Yeah,
it's a serious problem. Well, let's move on to some political issues. I mean, talking of Trump. Keir Starmer this week will undertake his very last international mission for this nation. He's done a fair few. Air miles, Keir, love to fly. Have premiership, will travel. That seemed to be his basic philosophy. Well, he's off to Turkey for this NATO summit. Now, he spent the last couple of weeks, sort of gaslighting Britain, gaslighting Brits and the nation, saying, among his many achievements, restoring confidence in defence spending was right at the top of the list, which is just bizarre that he should do this when we're all going, we're not spending enough on defence. I've restored defence spending confidence. No, you haven't. We all know this. But that kind of gaslighting, that kind of frankly lying, he's not going to get away with that in Turkey with Donald Trump present, is he?
No, and I mean, we talk about, post-truth politics with Donald Trump and so on. There could be nothing more post-truth than Keir Starmer pretending to be some strong defender of NATO and national security. I mean, the defence spending, the DIP, Defence Investment Plan, was a classic Starmer sort of disaster policy to end a disastrous premiership. I mean, essentially, he said this is, you know, the outcome of it was this is not enough for defence. Everybody knows this, but I've done more to push everything. But also, I haven't figured out how we're going to pay for it. So it was kind of wrong in every way. And I mean, Starmer, it is said, wants to have some role at NATO at some stage. Secretary General at NATO, I think probably not, will be the answer, given that the entire defence establishment loathes him now. And he did. He always wanted to, you know, put on camo gear and go to Ukraine and say all the tough things. But everybody in the defence establishment was crying out for more money. It's sort of taken as read now that, you know, NATO countries are going to have to spend 5% at least, probably north going into the next 10 years. Everybody agrees that the kind of global environment is getting far more dangerous. And he hasn't been good on defence. It's been a disaster. So it's odd that he regards this as his one crowning achievement. But the problem is he doesn't have a crowning achievement. So he has to just make it up.
He certainly does. And we're hearing that, well, Andy Burnham, who is one what you might call semi-serious interview with Labour fanboy Andrew Marr last Friday on, I'll say this through gritted teeth, LBC. They did that interview on Friday. Marr did not ask him. He asked him a little bit about defence spending, but he didn't ask him about the migrant crisis. He didn't ask him about net zero. He didn't ask him about the controversy over whether or not he's going to have a mandate to rule. I mean, it was soft soap on steroids, that interview. But all in all, what is Burnham going to do about spending? Because what we do know, the one question that Marr did ask him, he said, you know, we're hearing that, you know, you've got a £5 billion short black hole in defence spending and Starmer has left you to find the money, blah, blah, blah. And Burnham's somewhat diplomatic reply was, yes, I wasn't provided with all the details, but we're hearing that actually Burnham is seethingly furious that he's been kept in the dark about this and basically being told now by his predecessor, Starmer, there's a defence spending plan, you got to find £5 billion quid, good luck with that.
Well, it's a complete mess. And I mean, there is a bigger question about Burnham and foreign policy. He has no apparent expertise or knowledge or understanding of international affairs. There's nothing to suggest that he does. His entire politics is shaped very much by, you know, talking about the North, talking about Manchester, and that's great to a certain extent on the domestic front. But a prime minister needs to have a kind of vision of the world and a vision of Britain's place in the world. And I just don't get any sense of that from Burnham at all. And it's interesting on kind of what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? He kind of throws out certain policies. You know, he suggests he might cut business rates for pubs. He might do a land tax. We'll see what he does with capital gains tax and so on. But we're also hearing a lot of Labour or Starmer post-mortems at the moment saying, you know, Morgan McSweeney coming out and saying, that we didn't plan at all. And that's sort of the general consensus now that's agreed among Labour people is the problem with Keir Starmer, we didn't plan at all. The problem is the planning phase of the Burnham government, which should be right now and urgently, they seem to all be going around saying either in briefings or in public that, yeah, the problem was we didn't really plan at all last time. Well, you should be planning now very urgently and dramatically for a change in government and for you know, to be able to push a vision of what Burnham's going to stand for government. And we're not. We're getting sort of soft soap interviews. We're getting quite a lot of selfie videos. We're getting a lot of kind of northern signalling, a lot of talk about the Stone Roses and how much he loves music. But
the Smiths as well.
The Smiths, of course. But we're not getting any sense of a real vision for government taking shape. And, you know, we have to, of course, give him a chance, which I'm sure the British public will be willing to do to an extent. But unless he can develop a vision very, very quickly, and not just a vision, a plan to implement what he wants to do, then I think we're just going to see another disastrous premiership. I'm sorry to say it, but I think that's what is the most likely scenario.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that he's keeping most of his agenda, most of his plans to himself, because what he's actually told us is just empty and asinine. I mean, this, I'm going, number 10 Coronation Street, Wigan, that's where I'm going to run the country from. Well, he's not. There's two things about that. In fact, there's an office building he's got in mind in Manchester or something. There's two things about that. Even if he does get number 10 North going, it's already been reported, at best he'll spend 1 day a week there. So, in a sense, it's theatrical and performative. It's just to say, we've got this place. And a story I read over the weekend, which puts, casts even more doubt on the entire Northern project, if you like, is apparently if number 10 North does get going, it won't be fully functional until 2032. Well, that's if Labour is still in power, right?
Well, it's also there's some intrigue about how he's going to get there, if he has to get there on a regular basis, because driving is problematic. Quite a lot of traffic getting there and so on. The train, would that work? That service actually breaks down quite a lot. So the theory is he'd have to actually take a helicopter, which would then land him in all the sorts of trouble that Rishi Sunak got for taking a helicopter all over the place. No, I think it's incoherent. The worry is that actually, if the plan that they do have is quite dangerously left-wing on the economy, and so they're just trying to keep the bond markets at bay by insisting, no, they understand it's important to get spending under control and so on, and not to sort of just raise taxes. But it looks like there is a major fight over capital gains tax. Tony Blair coming out now and saying raising capital gain tax, perhaps matching it with income tax, would be disastrous. I think all independent analyses of that would say it would have a depressing effect on the British economy. But they may just push ahead and do it with a sense of sort of, for some reason this makes people feel more fair. I don't think anyone's going to care that it makes people feel more fair if the British economy just still doesn't grow, is still stagnating in a year's time.
Yeah, there were two, his interview with Andrew Marr last Friday, the only significant interview he's given, he did submit himself to the rigors of a Reddit Q&A session where he was bold enough to reveal what his favourite films were and his favourite colour was and things like that. But what he did say, there were two things he said to Andrew Marr that I think we should quiver in terror about. One was, I think there is wriggle room under the terms of the manifesto for more tax rises. And then he started waffling on about warehouses on the edge of cities. I'm not quite sure what that meant. But then he also said that he was not in favour of crude cuts to the welfare budget. In other words, he's not in favour of any cuts to the welfare budget. It's just going to be more of the same, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, how do you not impose crude cuts? You do sort of subtle cuts that don't make any difference, I suppose. I mean, that's the great danger is that, if he does have a plan, it sounds like it's a terrible plan. And if he doesn't have a plan, we're just going to carry on stagnating.
Tell you what, in the words of the song, Freddie, there may be trouble ahead. Really good to have you on the show, as always. The brilliant deputy editor and the American editor of The Spectator, Freddie Gray there. We're going to go to a break now. Thank you, Freddie. And when we come back, it's Harry time. We're going to talk to Kinsey Schofield about what the hell is going on with the Dim Duke. What is he doing? He seems to be screwing everyone up. Oh, I'm coming, I'm bringing the wife, I'm bringing the kids, we're going to stay in Buckingham Palace, we're not going to stay in Buckingham Palace, oh, I'm coming on my own, the others might come later. I mean, what? This is shambolic, utterly shambolic. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Good morning to you. This is Talk the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files was released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A lot of people getting in touch about Donald Trump's intervention into the World Cup, getting a special exemption for USA's star striker, who should be excluded from their quarter-final game against Belgium because he got sent off in the last game against Bosnia, but the President, Trump's got involved. And FIFA have agreed to give him an exemption, which is just bizarre. It's just wrong. You know, for example, Alan in Scotland is saying, well, to deal with the Trump intervention, the USA should simply omit the red-carded player from their next team selection. I agree with you, Alan, but will they? Will they? We know the USA are not happy about the president trying to get them special favouritism. They're not happy about it, but will they drop their star striker to make a point? I doubt it somehow, but who knows? Let me know what you think. 03444991000. What should happen about this extraordinary intervention by President Trump into the World Cup, trying to exempt their star striker, America's star striker, from what should be his ban from the next quarter-final game against Belgium? Simple as that. He's the only red-carded player who's not banned for the next match. That's just ridiculous. Anyway, in the meantime, it's time to talk about Harry. From red card to red head, red-haired Harry. Or what hairs he got left. He's not very, you know, he's pretty much bald these days, but he's still got a few splatterings of red hair around, hasn't he, old ginger nuts? What the hell is he up to? As far as we know, we think he may have touched down by now in Britain. But he was originally going to be bringing Meghan and the kids. He's come on his own. Are they going to be coming later? He can't apparently now stay at Buckingham Palace because he left it too late to accept the invitation from the King. The whole thing is a shambles and a mess. The royal family, King Charles and his courtiers, are tearing their hair out. They really are. Let's talk to the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, Kinsey Schofield. Welcome, Kins.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to have you on the show, of course. But I was desperate to get you on because even by Harry and Meghan's standards, this is a disaster. This is an utter disaster. Even this morning, the online editions of the newspapers here going, yeah, Harry has decided to accept his father's invitation and he'll be flying in on his own and he will be staying at Buckingham Palace. Now, this invitation was extended by the King, 2-3 weeks ago? Apparently only in the last few hours, as Harry said, yeah, I'll take it. And, of course, Buckingham Palace, the King's staff, have turned around and said, no, it's too late now. We have to make special arrangements. You know, we asked you 2-3 weeks ago. You tell us now. I'm sorry. That's too late. You cannot stay at Buckingham Palace. So the questions we now have to ask are, where will he be staying? Will he, as has been reported, be bringing Meghan and the kids, Archie and Lilibet, over in a couple of days' time? Or will he not? If they do come, will it just comprise of a visit to Diana's grave at the Althorpe estate? Because apparently there's no way he'll bring his family to London. Or will they not come at all? And will poor King Charles once again not get to see his beloved grandchildren for the first time in 4 long years? It's a shambles, it's a mess, it's chaos, and it is chaos of Harry and Meghan's own making, isn't it?
It is, and Russell Myers and the Mirror are reporting that the king has made the decision that if Harry does not bring the children over, he will not make any changes in his diary to just see Harry for a one-on-one meeting with Harry. If Harry chooses to not bring the children, then according to Russell Myers, the king will not make any adjustments within his existing schedule to make room for a meeting with Harry, because Harry has left this all to the 11th hour. I said to you last week, Buckingham Palace is not a Holiday Inn. You need to respect the protocol. You need to respect the fact that they need the time to organize staff. It's not a lived-in residence right now, so they would need to arrange the staff. They would need to arrange the food and beverage, and Harry didn't leave them time to do that. So yeah, this is all on Harry, but it puts him in the perfect position that I've said I believe he's trying to be in since day one, which is villainizing his father and being the victim. Again, Harry's always the victim. The Daily Mail continues to report that Harry might still bring the children over, and their excuse is because he told the children they could come, and they're so excited. Again, positioning King Charles as the bad guy, because Harry's Father of the Year. He wants to bring the kids over because the kids really want to see the UK. But, you know, if things don't work out, it's because of his mean dad. And that's just not reality. If things fall apart, it's because Prince Harry has very unrealistic expectations.
And he's also, I mean, this is what he's being accused of. And these are accusations that I think, you know, certainly seem to be pretty justified, that he's using his children as emotional blackmail on his father. That his plan, what his critics say is that his plan all along was to say to his dad, hey, Dad, I'm going to bring Archie and Lilibet over to Britain and you can see them for the first time in 4 years. How you've missed them. Won't that be wonderful? Charles, yeah, great. Why don't you stay at Buckingham Palace while you're here? That'll be fantastic. And then Harry turns around and says, yeah, but of course, you've got to organise me the armed police protection that I've been suing the British government about for the last 2 years. You've got to get me that, obviously, before I bring the kids. Charles turns around and says, it's none of my business. I don't make these decisions.
It's not just none of his business, but it would reflect poorly on him as Harry is suing him, as the Crown is, you know, the ultimate, you know, when it comes to the court system, it's the King's court, you know, and so it doesn't just reflect poorly on him. And Katie Nicholl made a really good point to me today. Now, Harry's team said one of the reasons the palace gave them was that his court case is, we're going to get that verdict on Tuesday, tomorrow. And the palace said, that puts the king in a very uncomfortable situation yet again with the verdict. And I hadn't visualized this until Katie Nicholl said it to me, but she said, imagine Harry wins or loses this court case and does either the defeat, the defiant, angry speech, or the victory lap outside of Buckingham Palace and using the king's home and that landmark, that staple for whatever it is, whether it's a bitter tirade or if he wanted to gloat. That just can't happen, Kevin. Harry is no longer a member of this institution in the way that he used to be, and he would take advantage of that opportunity. He would use that platform. He would use that beautiful building to stand there and bark. Whatever happens will happen. But I just hadn't imagined that he would stand out, and that's true. He's proven in the last 2 weeks that he has the audacity.
Well, I mean, he did it last time, didn't he, when he lost his long-running case in the courts to get this armed police protection from British coppers whenever he comes to this country. He neither warrants nor deserved that. This has been decided, and that decision is very unlikely ever to change, but he's got this obsession with it. And critics, including Prince William, we know this, just say he's been using those kids as emotional blackmail, trying to get Charles to stick his nose in and change that decision just so he can get to see his grandchildren. Charles saying, look, I cannot do that, nor would I do that. It's outside my remit. I don't make decisions about royal security.
And Harry's team actually accusing Prince William of having somebody on the Ravic committee that is conspiring against him, and that is not true.
Of course it's not true. William is furious. The rest of the royal family are furious, and I think from what you were saying about what the King is now saying, quite clearly King Charles, a gentle soul who doesn't like confrontation, is seething with his father.
Hey, I'll tell you who else. Let me tell you who else is seething right now, Kevin.
Yeah.
The Invictus leadership. This trip was supposed to be about the veterans. This trip was supposed to be a kickoff to the 1 year in Birmingham for the Invictus Games. Cinnabale is currently suing Prince Harry because they felt like his behavior was so appalling, so inappropriate when he was still working with them. He's no longer working with them. And if you run down the list of their complaints, they say Harry and Meghan have become a distraction. Harry and Meghan's brand is so toxic that people no longer want to donate to us, no longer want to work with us. And are we not seeing the same reflected on Invictus today, this week, because of Prince Harry's actions? Because Prince Harry has made this a circus? We are. And it's my understanding that Invictus leadership was already not thrilled about the idea of having to deal with Meghan in London or Birmingham. And now they're especially distraught over the way Harry has handled this over the last few weeks, because it distracts from in a really negative way, from their ultimate objective, which is to protect these veterans.
You'll be thrilled. This is literally just broken, Kinsey. The Duke of Sussex has arrived in the UK, a spokesperson for Harry has confirmed. So he's arrived on his own. Now, tomorrow, as you say, we mustn't in any way prejudge what might happen, but his long-running case against the Mail group of newspapers, the Daily Mail, the judgment on that, whether or not they used illegal methods to stalk him, to listen into his phone calls, etc. That ruling will be unveiled tomorrow morning. So I guess we can expect some sort of response from the Duke of Sussex about that. And then I guess, Kinsey, we just wait to see whether or not Meghan and the kids turn up. We now know if they do, they definitely won't go to London, but they might go to Althorpe to see Diana's last resting place. I don't know what the hell that is all about. But the King saying, well, if you don't bring the kids, I can't be bothered to see you. The King, I think, joining William and the rest of the royal family in fury about this guy. Even the King has had enough, right?
I mean, the back and forth this morning regarding Harry's, whether he was staying at Buckingham Palace, and then the palace having to correct the narrative and say, no, he's not. We have no plans on hosting him. This was decided over the weekend. And then Harry saying how disappointed he was in his family and in the palace for not giving him Buckingham Palace. He continues to embarrass this family. Obviously, the best thing for them is to continue to distance themselves from him, because he's proven in the last 2 weeks that he hasn't learned a lesson. He's been horrible to them over the last 6 years, and there's no stopping him. He just continues to attack.
Yeah, and he's not doing himself any favours. I mean, everybody is looking at this guy and thinking, what on earth are you playing at? He's behaving like some sort of petulant teenager in a tantrum. It's pathetic. It is pathetic. And we still don't quite know what's going on. And ultimately, I feel sorry for the King. He was looking forward to seeing his grandchildren. He's bewildered now. He has no idea what's going on, but he's made it very clear what his feelings are. Either I get to see those kids or I'm not interested in seeing you, Harry. I think that will come as a bit of a bolt from the blue, a bit of a shock for old Harry. Listen, Kinsey, fantastic to have you on the show. I think I'll be in touch with you. I think you might be not too far away from us. So I will give you a call, and great to have you on the show. Thank you very much. The brilliant Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered there. What do you make of what the Duke of Sussex, Harry, is up to? No one seems to know. But it's not very becoming, is it? 03444 99 1000. Going to break now, and we'll take calls for the rest of the show. I'll read some of your messages. I don't know if we've got any WhatsApp voice notes, but if we have, we'll play them out. So all of that still to come. 03444 99 1000. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A couple of messages. This is from JKGT. Hi, Kev. I thought that if we left the EU, we would be much better off. Was that a lie? It wasn't a lie. It didn't have to be a lie, but the way we've gone about it, shall we say, has not delivered the advantages of leaving the Brussels Club that perhaps we should have enjoyed. We've gone about it in a really haphazard, trashy way, to be honest with you, and ended up making it. I still think Brexit's made this country better, more independent, more able to make our own decisions. I still think it's better for this country, but it should have been a lot better than it has been because we've had all these Westminster politicians like sort of concrete boots around Brexit, trying to drag it down, trying to ruin it all the time. So could have been better. What else we got? Oh, I'll just play this and then we'll go to the phones. This is from Ginny Spring. Love you. Love the show, Kev. Thank you very much, Jenny. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Mick in Northampton. Hi, Mick.
Hiya.
You want to talk about Rochdale? What would you like to say?
Where do I start? Right, this guy that everyone...
Shabir Ahmed, yeah.
Yeah. We all want him deported.
Yes.
I mean, personally, I'd like to chemically castrate him, but...
Or hang him.
No, chemically castrated.
I'd hang him. Why not execute him? I mean, he raped 30 children.
Yes,
for God's sake.
yeah, I know, but we don't do it at the moment.
Well, mate, perhaps we should, Mick. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, for the right thing.
For him. For him.
But what you are going to get is every civil servant and every police officer and every MP and councillor within that area He knows their names. He knows who covered it up. He can name them all.
Does he?
You can guarantee it.
Why would he necessarily know who turned their back?
Because he was the ringleader.
That's not why they're protecting him. They're protecting him because if they, in my view, the reason Labour are protecting him, the government seem to be protecting him and not that keen to deport him, is because if they did do that, it might sort of upset the Muslim community, and therefore Labour might lose the Muslim vote.
Have you not thought that those councillors that are now MPs that were involved, he'll have known the councillors.
Well, have you not thought that he might just be a moron who has no idea who covered up for him? I suspect he's not a master criminal, you know, Mick. He's a moron and an animal.
No, and I agree with you 100%.
I don't think you're right. I don't think he has the faintest idea who covered up for him. He's just...
I think he does.
Well,
and I think
that's not how it goes, mate. I'm sorry, mate, but you're sort of misunderstanding the way this happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't go like that. It doesn't go like that. That's not why they're covering up. That's not why he seems to ostensibly be being helped by the government. It's because, all in all, they don't want to upset the Muslims. Simple as that. A fair point, though, Mick. Interesting. Thank you for ringing. Mick in Northampton there. Let's go to Martin in Nottingham. Hi, Martin. You want to talk about Nigel Farage?
Yeah. Are you with me on this? I cannot believe that.
I don't know. What is it? What's your point?
Right. Okay. Is this really, years ago, is really all they've got to talk about when we've got, Home Office people accused of rape? We've got things like the Rochdale. We've got grooming gangs going on still. We've got horrendous things.
Yeah, but they're after... Farage thinks they're after him, and I think he's got a lot of justification in thinking that the media are after him and they're going to get him. What I would say, it doesn't, in the end, the importance of the charges doesn't really matter. It's the way it all looks. Now, when you say about old accusations of him receiving money, well, this is a few years back, and he's accused of receiving a £5 million free gift from the billionaire Christopher Harborne, and also money and donations from a guy called George Cottrell, who's a convicted fraudster. And the accusation against Nigel Farage and Reform is that this money came in the 12 months before he became a MP, and as such, those amounts should have been declared. If that is the case, and he didn't declare them, he's broken parliamentary rules.
OK, can I ask you a question before I go?
Yeah, sure.
If you'd had a friend 30 years living on the other side of the world, and he was done for fiddling the books or whatever, or not paying his taxes, would you phone him up and say, right, that's it, you've broken the rules, I'm not talking to you ever again?
No, I wouldn't. But it's not the point, is it? If the Parliamentary Standards Office committee decide that he's broken parliamentary rules, he's in trouble. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but they're a bunch of traitors, most of them, aren't they?
Say that again, sorry?
They're a bunch of traitors, most of them, anyway.
Well, that's as may be, but the rules are the rules. Perhaps Nigel Farage should have been a bit more careful about declaring these amounts. I mean, I've got a lot of sympathy for Nigel when he says that he's being picked on, that this is an establishment stitch-up going on. I've got a lot of sympathy for it, but people like him, all party leaders, have to be very careful about this, and I think there is a certain feeling that he hasn't been careful enough with his financial affairs, and therefore he has provided open goals to his opposition, to his enemies. Do you see?
The alternative is Labour. I think I'd worry less about his gift.
It's not the point. You can say that till the cows come home, but if they can get him on parliamentary details, on parliamentary rules, if he's broken them, you can go on about, but we'll get Labour again. It doesn't matter. They'll get him. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do, and I think it's pathetic, frankly.
Look, I'm with you on that, mine, and I absolutely agree with you. But you know what it's like in Westminster. But I wish Nigel Farage all the best. But he better be able to prove he didn't break the rules. It's pathetic. I agree with you, mine, but it is what it is. You know what I mean. Good call from Martin there in Nottingham. Let's go to break. Take some more calls when we come back.
Good morning to you. This is Tour the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lots of texts, lots of phone calls about Nigel Farage. Here's one from George. To coin a well-worn phrase, Nigel Farage is living rent-free in the heads of lefties. And do you know what? 99% of his supporters couldn't give a damn about the £5 million. Yeah, that's all very well, but what about people who didn't necessarily support Nigel Farage, might vote Reform, but won't because of the £5 million? All these mad Farage fanboys and fangirls don't understand there's not enough of them to support Farage in his hour of need. They need more than just Reform fans. See what I mean? I'm not saying that what's happening to him is fair, but it's no good all the people in Reform go, yeah, well, we don't care. Because it does matter, and it doesn't look good. Here's another one from Phil in Essex. He says, all this hype over Nigel Farage is just the media trying to find a story that's not really there. Doesn't matter. It's on the front pages. You have to remember that good news is not news. Yeah, that's true. If there's nothing around, they'll scrape the barrel, and that's exactly what's happening at the moment. All for Reform. I'm all for Reform, and I've got 100% faith in Nigel. Well, that's not good enough. We need more than that. Let's talk to Rob in London. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. What would you like to say? You want to talk about defence, yeah?
I wanted to talk about defence. Everybody's harping on about how depleted our armed forces are. And it ain't just the Labour, it's the Conservatives as well over the last 30 years.
Yeah.
The amount of armed forces there are is reduced that much. What I would propose is, instead of...
Yeah, go on.
Is put an armed forces tax in. that everybody pays a 2.5% tax for the armed forces. Anybody who's on benefits pay a 5% off whatever they're getting claimed.
But don't you think? But you know that might be very unpopular.
Again, we're in a crisis situation. We can't defend ourselves.
I couldn't agree with you less. I think what the government should do is to drastically reduce its grotesque welfare bill, £350 billion a year, maybe by 100 billion, give that money to defence. How about that? Then we don't have to pay any more taxes, do we?
But that's just as bad as people not going to be upset with paying 5% of whatever they're getting.
Well, they will be, actually. They will be upset.
Definitely. But by 5%.
Well, why don't we get the government to do something sensible and stop paying £350 billion a year on welfare and say take £100 billion of that and pay it into defence? Why don't we do that? Then we don't have to pay any special taxes.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah, that would be a much better idea, wouldn't it?
With government, if you were to put it that everybody over the age of 18 pays 2.5% as an armed forces tax, then nobody can dip into that. No other government.
Yeah, but it'd be better, wouldn't it, if we stopped spending £350 billion a year on welfare?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so that's what I propose. That's what we should do. Listen, Rob, nice idea. Interesting. Thank you for ringing. Robert in London there. Let's talk to Andy in Telford. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Kev. How are you?
I'm good. Do you want to talk about policing? What would you like to say?
Yeah, it occurred to me that the awful leadership in policing is probably the net result of fast-tracking university graduates through in the 90s and the noughties. And now we've got those guys in charge, which is what's promoting this wokery within the police force.
Well, yeah, I mean, we need, I think David Blunkett's exactly right. We need a massive recalibration of the way our police forces are run. He's saying that the way they're being run is just not good enough. They're obsessed with wokery and identity politics. They've forgotten about catching the bad guy. He's very worried about two-tier policing, which we have a government that doesn't even admit exists. Of course it does. And so on and so forth. But here's the problem. The College of Policing, which commissioned this report, won't do anything about it because the College of Policing likes woke policing. They invented wokery in policing and they're not about to stop it.
Yeah, but the College of Policing hasn't been there forever. We used to manage without it. Why do we need it now?
Well, no, I mean, I'd get rid of it right away. I'd get rid of it now. It's pernicious.
From the roots.
It's pernicious. It's pernicious. They are the people who think that charges of racism are more important than charges of murder and rape. It's ridiculous, but it is what it is. The College of Policing are there, and they've got this report that they commissioned, and they won't do anything about it. I'll guarantee you. They'll carry on being woke. But you're right, we need to change. Andy, good call. Andy in Telford there. Let's talk to Mandy in Felixstowe. Hi, Mandy.
Hi, Kevin. Good evening.
Hello. What would you like to say?
I'm sick and tired of all this about Nigel.
Yeah.
For one, all what Labour's done, we've got a so-called Prime Minister coming in that we've not voted for.
I agree with all that. I agree with that, Mandy. But do you think that I understand exactly what your position is, but do you think you and all the Reform supporters and Nigel Farage supporters being sick and tired about what's happening to him in the media will make a blind bit of difference? He is busy being smeared and it's getting worse by the day. Do you see what I mean? His supporters saying this is all wrong, it's not fair. Well, fair enough, but that isn't going to change the dial.
But Starmer won't give him security.
Yeah, I know, but do you think that is going to? Do you think that is going to pull Nigel Farage out of the hole? It won't, Mandy. There's a problem
but I'm
here.
just saying it's just so wrong.
I couldn't agree with you more, but there is a problem here. There's a problem. Do you see what I mean? And the question that you should be asking yourself, and other Reform supporters as well, Farage fans, is, you know, whether or not he's done anything wrong, we have to wait and see. But has he been too casual in his financial affairs and, in effect, presented his enemies with open goals to score against him? That's what you've got to ask yourself, Mandy.
So can we also ask what can we do about Starmer?
Well, you could do that till the cows come home, but it doesn't detract from the fact there's a problem with Farage. It's not necessarily his fault, but once the media get their teeth into someone, they're in trouble. Mandy, good call. Mandy and Felix, though, there. Peter Cardwell is in the studio. I'm right, aren't I, about Farage?
You're absolutely right. There is a problem with Nigel Farage, and the question is George Cottrell his Mandelson? Is he the person who's going to bring him down in some way, or just cause a lot of problems?